Here we are, week 2. You made it. I have to say, things get amped up a little bit in week 2. I went a little easy on you in week 1. I didn't put as much content in week 1 just to sort of help you ease into the online environment and virtual chemistry and what is that all about. And so we have to play a little bit of catch up in week 2, but we're going to build on some of the things we talked about in week 1. So we're going to take our discussion of the periodic table, and now we're going to look at periodic trends. And we're going to learn how to explain trends on the periodic table in relationship to the atom's structure and how that nuclear attraction for that electron determines structure and reactivity. That's all got a lot of vocabulary going on. So you're going to have to practice that vocabulary. So there are a lot of practice assignments that are having you write some explanations for chemical phenomena based on data. But that's okay, because we got some practice with that last week, and we're just going to keep learning how to explain things. After we do a good discussion of periodic trends, that leads us naturally into bonding models. So there's a looking ahead activity to get your head around the Wednesday synchronous session, where we're going to talk a lot more about bonding models. I have to say that the book puts information about bonding models all over the book. So the recommended reading is all over your textbook. I laid it out in the Canvas module as best I could. You should just pay attention to the sections that I call out, and they're all over the textbook. But you should be okay if you just pay attention to those specific sections and topics that I called out. After we are inspired about bonding models in our Wednesday synchronous session, you should be ready to jump into the nomenclature lab and use what you know about chemical bonding to predict what type of compound is this, and so what nomenclature system do I use. Nomenclature is just a fancy word for the rules about how we name things in chemistry. There's also another piece to the lab this week where we're going to take some measurements. You're going to be measuring the density of some sugary beverages, diet and not diet, figuring out do they have different densities. And that's really all about learning how to measure volumes in the laboratory. You'll see what I mean. And lastly, we're going to build on the calculation piece from last week. Last week we talked a lot about calculations of elements, how many atoms are in a sample of an element, using dimensional analysis generally. This week we're going to be very specific about compounds. Now that we know how to name things with nomenclature, we're going to calculate things about those compounds. You're going to have even more chemistry vocabulary with that piece, describing or classifying substances as elemental or compound, and then thinking about, are these elemental things just single atoms or molecules, and are these compounds covalent or ionically bound? So are they molecules, or do they come in a lattice? All these are vocabulary words that we'll get some practice with this week. Consequently, you have a lot of practice this week. So there's homework assignments that are built to help you quantitatively do chemistry, those calculations, but also qualitatively, how do we talk about chemistry and use that rich vocabulary that you're building this week. You might have heard the triumphant music in the background. Anytime I've got a lot to do and I need to feel powerful, I put on a powerful soundtrack. So you were listening to music from the motion picture Gladiator. I recommend you find whatever music pumps you up and use it to pump yourself up for week 2. I'm here for you if you have questions, if you're not clear about expectations or where you find assignments. They should all be in the week 2 module, but if you have challenges accessing any materials, please let me know. I look forward to working with you. See you Wednesday.